Hey everyone, it's me, Dre. I'm posting this video for fellow YouTuber adamtki. He and I, we've got this long thread going on ever since the verdict came out that George Zimmerman was pronounced not guilty for the murder of Trayvon Martin. You know, my stance is on George Zimmerman being a criminal, a murderer, while Adam TKI, he's a staunch supporter for George Zimmerman and the verdict. There's always mixed views with this. For me, it's not motivated by race, because if the black man had killed the white kid, Hispanic kid, Asian, I would still have posted a video. I would still disagree with the verdict, because a killer's a killer. And the circumstances prove that something's not right. Things just don't add up. And a lot of people just aren't looking at what could be fact. So I'm going to break down and give my analysis. Adam TKI, you have every right to feel whichever way that you do. However, I really don't think that you've taken a long, hard look at everything leading up to it. You're just basically going off of the testimony for the one that is alive, but you're not putting yourself in the place of the person who was killed, or at least from the time that they were alive leading up to their eventual demise. So with that being said, I'm not going to go and repeat or iterate everything that you had said. But for the most part, you're saying that George Zimmerman, he had a right to follow, quote unquote. And you even put that in caps on one of your comments. You said that George Zimmerman, he's got the gun permit. We all understand that he's got the permit for the gun, which he keeps in his car. But let's also keep in mind, on the night in question, because it was early in the morning, like around 1 a.m., George Zimmerman, he testified that he was going to like Walmart or Target, one of those two stores. I'm guessing Walmart, because Target probably has a closing time. However, and that really doesn't matter. But he was going to the store, and it just so happened that as he was driving, he came upon someone that he deemed to be suspicious because of the recent break-ins for people's homes. You know, he had some concerns. Nothing wrong with that. As a neighborhood watch, you know, if you see someone, you know, think in the back of your mind, what the hell could be going on at that time of the night. However, there's no crime in a teenager, 17 years old, walking around at night. People want to say, oh, well, he's an adult. He's not a little kid. But at the same time, they're saying he shouldn't have been out at that age. So there's a contradiction right there for those that are against Trayvon Martin. So once again, we're not going to go to that. We're going to stay on point with your comments, your defense, and then my analysis of what happened. Now, for me, I'm guessing that when Zimmerman came upon this suspect, he observed that this person was walking, had a hoodie on, had some jeans, had some white sneakers. It was raining, and just the way that they were walking, he was suspicious. He said that, and when he called to 911 dispatch, he said, there's a person out here, he's walking, he could be on drugs. That kind of, he didn't have to assert that. He didn't have to assume that this person is on drugs simply because they're looking around and walking. Once again, if I'm walking out late at night, I'm going to be looking to the sides. I'm going to be looking behind me. It's just human nature. Most of us do that. They don't just look straight ahead. I know they're getting from point A to point B, but they're going to look around, just be aware of their surroundings. So I'm guessing that's Trayvon Martin just looking around. Now, as far as how he was walking, whether he was walking side to side or something like that, we can't really speak on that. But once again, Zimmerman profiled this young man simply because of the way that he was walking. So that was wrong. And it could have been a white kid, Asian, Hispanic, as I said earlier. It could have been anyone. So I don't think it's about race. When dispatch asked him, how did he look? He was guessing that it could be a black person. And then he described the age as being late teen. So he knew that it was a teen. Whether he knew that this person was armed or not, of course he's not going to know that. But after a while of following him, once again, this is following, by definition, this is following Adam TKI. He was in his vehicle, probably 15, 20, 25 feet behind, driving at a very slow rate, 1-2 miles per hour, while giving a description to police dispatch, keeping his distance, but keeping this person in front of him. That is following. All of a sudden, with the 911 call, he said, oh, he's turning around. And he recognized that this person was in fact black. And as he got closer, he says, oh yeah, this guy's clearly on something. Now, how he knew that, once again, He profiled that. And as Trayvon Martin got closer, because Zimmerman said that he's coming close to the vehicle, he's looking at me, right then and there, if this were you in the car and someone was approaching your vehicle because you thought they were suspicious, the adrenaline is flowing, this person's coming at you, you don't know what the fuck is going on. If at this time you reach for your gun because you think that shit might pop off, you have every right to discharge your gun if they're trying to get into the car to get at you. However, Trayvon Martin, having gotten close and seeing that this person was talking on the phone, probably to call the police, I'm guessing he got scared and ran. And even Zimmerman said he ran. He said, fucking assholes or something like that. They always get away. So these are the words from George Zimmerman. And it's not verbatim, but you can listen to the 911 call where he said this person ran. So right then and there, he made two critical mistakes. He put the gun, he got his gun, put it on his person, not in his glove box. Because I'm guessing if he's got a gun permit, he keeps the gun in his vehicle, or he takes it out of his home, puts it in his vehicle, but he doesn't keep it on his person if he's going to go into a place of business. So he put the gun on his person. Mistake number one. Mistake number two, getting the fuck out of the car. Now, we both know, and if you think still otherwise, that he had the right to get out of the car when feeling that there was imminent danger, you really have a problem, because I highly doubt that your scary ass would get out the car under the same circumstance. George Zimmerman knew that by having that gun, that was his equalizer. That's why he got out the car. Now, at this moment, because the person that he deemed as suspicious was no longer in sight, it became stalking. He was stalking a teenage kid, a teenager. He had a gun. In the event that something went off, he felt that he would have a right to discharge it. However, it's still murder. And for me, I think it's premeditated, because he knew that under the circumstance, he was going to shoot someone. Now, during the testimony, because apparently this neighborhood, Trayvon Martin's father's girlfriend lived in that neighborhood. And looking at some of the pictures as far as the potential path, Trayvon Martin, he was almost home. But the path that he took and the path that George Zimmerman took, they were eventually going to meet up. But I'm guessing Trayvon Martin, he kind of hid, not thinking that this person was going to continue to follow him. He was going to wait a few minutes, wait till it cleared, and then get up and take his ass home. But he was not expecting George Zimmerman to get out of the car. When he ran, Zimmerman was still in the car. And during that 911 call, you can hear all the jostling. Part of it, I'm guessing, where he put the gun on his hip, and then where he was getting out of the car. You hear this. So he didn't have to get out the car to stalk this young man. Now, as George Zimmerman was trying to find out where this person could have potentially gone, dispatch is asking, are you still following him? Zimmerman says yes. Dispatch says, we don't need you to do that. Right then and there, he could have turned the fuck around and gotten to his vehicle, but he did not. The path, as far as what we saw, based on the defense and prosecution, from the top view, Zimmerman went in between the apartment buildings, the opposite of where his vehicle could have been. So he was still stalking, trying to find this person. And it just so right then and there, that's Zimmerman's fault. Now, from there, I'm guessing Trayvon Martin, because at this point he saw that this person had gotten the fuck out the car and was still searching for him, probably talking on his phone, and just had his phone put away. Trayvon Martin got out, so they saw each other at close proximity. Zimmerman, you have to understand, if there was any problem to where he felt threatened and he had a gun, why was he letting Trayvon Martin approach him? Have you ever thought about that? If it were me and I had a gun and I felt that someone could potentially harm me and I had the gun, I'm not going to just draw the gun and pull the trigger. But if I know that they're approaching, I'm going to pull the gun out and I'm going to ask them to cease stepping forward. And I'm going to be backing away. Now, what happened from there, no one knows. But we do know that an altercation ensued. And based on the various calls from people that heard someone screaming, we don't know whether it was George Zimmerman or Trayvon Martin. But, they had depictions of, because someone said that they saw one person on top of the other. So even if Trayvon Martin was on top of Zimmerman, I'm guessing if he was, He probably punched him, and Zimmerman's head ricocheted off the ground, and that's just a natural bodily reaction, and that's what split his head open. So he had a little cut and then a hole on the back of his head, and then there was a fair bit of blood. That is not bashing. Bashing is the act of taking someone by the side of the head and continually smashing their head to the ground. That is bashing by the definition that the the defense tried to claim Trayvon Martin did against George Zimmerman. But when you look at those pictures, you will see that there is not enough damage to George Zimmerman's head that it would be considered bashing. There's just not enough physical damage or injury to him to determine that it was. But once again, he probably got hit, his head bounced off the ground, and that's what caused that little split on the back of his head. And he probably hit him once or twice. Other than that, there was no grabbing on the head and bashing. He was just getting his ass kicked by someone that was 10 years his junior. Now, from there, this is where no one knows, and also consider the fact, because George Zimmerman said that while he was in the submissive position and Trayvon Martin was on top of him, he reached for his gun, or as you said, he saw the gun try to reach, he as in Trayvon Martin, saw the gun try to reach forward, take it from him, and then do more physical damage to George Zimmerman. Okay, that's bullshit. You know it, I know it, and I certainly know it. George Zimmerman was wearing an orange and gray jacket, went down probably about to his mid-hip. How the fuck is Trayvon Martin going to see that gun if George Zimmerman had his jacket zipped up? Did you ever ask yourself that question? What, you trying to say that during the that confrontation where they were probably pressed up against each other, Trayvon Martin either reached up the jacket and felt the gun, or he just decided to cop a feel when they were kind of in a fight and embracing each other, and he felt a hard object that could be deemed as a gun? Are you trying to really tell me that Trayvon Martin tried to go for the gun and says, you're going to die now? I mean, really? That smells of bullshit all the way around. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people will agree with that. Now, from there, I'm thinking once they got back to their feet, because also when you look at some of the images that, as far as from one of the bystanders who saw or faintly saw them on the ground, as opposed to where Trayvon Martin's body eventually was at, it's virtually impossible for George Zimmerman to have been on the ground, reached up, and shot Trayvon Martin. Also consider the fact that if Trayvon Martin was above him, George Zimmerman would have had to have had his hand in a very awkward position with his gun to discharge the firearm. You didn't think about that, but you're arguing that he had every right to shoot his weapon, and that's how it happened, simply because that was his testimony. Bullshit. Or as in the Mexicans, they say puro pero. That means bullshit. All right. Now, I'm guessing what happened is by the time they got to their feet and they were still scuffling, trying to combat each other and control each other's hands, George Zimmerman went to reach for the gun. Trayvon Martin saw it, and he was the one that was in fact screaming. Now, there's no doubt George Zimmerman probably tried to yell out for help, but then again, with those recordings, for him getting hit and yelling for help, it's just not consistent. If someone was hitting you, you just can't yell out in one long rhythmic yell the word help, because you're too busy getting hit, and it's going to be broken up. Help, help, help. That's how it sounds if someone's hitting you and you're trying to fight someone off. It's just very, very impossible to yell out for help. I'm guessing Trayvon Martin, while trying to fight off his arm from getting a gun pointed at him, was yelling for help. And it just so happens that George Zimmerman got the drop on him and pulled the trigger. And there's a lot of whole fucked up shit that happened afterwards. But also consider, if Trayvon Martin was on top and George Zimmerman discharged the gun, where's the blood on George Zimmerman? There was no blood on the gun. There was no blood on George Zimmerman. If blood had dropped based on the distance from what George Zimmerman had testified, some blood would have gotten on him. Also consider the fact that him getting shot in the chest, Trayvon Martin would have slumped forward. Cops got there and Trayvon Martin was on his face with his hands slightly under his body. So if Trayvon Martin had fallen on top of George Zimmerman would have had to have pushed him off of him. You didn't think about that. And all of a sudden, with that motion, it would have conveniently placed his arms under his body. If that was the case, he would have more than likely been on his side or on his back. So I'm guessing during the melee, with the two of them trying to push against each other, the force meeting in the middle, George Zimmerman getting the drop on him with the gun went off, Trayvon Martin fell forward. Now, this is just my theory, but it definitely makes sense. Because if George Zimmerman shot while Trayvon Martin was on top, there would be blood somewhere on his body. And I'm talking about Zimmerman's body. You didn't think about that. But you're continually arguing with me, trying to justify what Zimmerman did was right. And as I stated, as a neighborhood watch, it is your job to observe and report. And Zimmerman did do that. But he went a step further by pursuing, which is something that neighborhood watch is not supposed to do, because they put themselves at jeopardy. And even dispatch said, keep your ass in the car, but not in those exact words. But that was the intent behind them saying, you don't have to do that, when they asked if he was following, and Zimmerman said yes. He could have turned around. And as I stated also, if it had been more than one person that was walking in the neighborhood, Zimmerman would not have gotten his scary ass out of the car. I can almost assure you of that. But I'm pretty sure that you're going to leave comments on this to still argue this case. And I'm pretty sure that there's going to be people that are going to feel the same way that you do, and there's going to be people that kind of see it the way that I do. It doesn't matter, but for those who watch this video, if you like what I say, please like, subscribe, and share. Peace.